Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Alexa, turn off the southeast. Okay, that makes life easier for me. So today, okay, we are connecting the smart home to the internet with Wi-Fi. And the ESP2 main control board comes with a Wi-Fi module, making our smart home accessible to the internet easily. So this thing right here, make sure I'm pointing it out. This thing right here. Come down here and look inside of our model, and you will see that I think that chip right there, I think, is the Wi-Fi module. Oh, there's a big silver chip in there. Pretty sure that's the Wi-Fi module that's in here, because that's what it looks like. And it sits, it's hard to tell, but it's kind of raised off of there just a little bit. You can kind of see it's almost like on a little tiny platform, but I think that's our Wi-Fi module. One of these days maybe we'll take it apart and we'll find out the truth, but for now it's not really important for what we're doing today. Crunchy? Here, play with the laser. Go get the laser. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to make a video, and I was trying to use the laser to point at the thing inside the house, and cat just wants to play now. Description: after we connect the smart home to a LAN, local area network, which is the Wi-Fi in your home or the hotspot of your phone. Okay. After the connection is successful, an address will be assigned. So that's DHCP, being assigned an IP address from your router. And if you don't know how that stuff goes down, stay tuned, because we'll start with Security Plus Study Guide next, coming up in the near future. And we'll go over a lot of that network stuff, which can be used for communication. We will print the assigned address in the serial monitor. Okay, so this is the test code. Note the SSID, that's the network name, and the password in the code should be filled with your own Wi-Fi and password name. So this SSID, this is mine, and this password is my password. So, okay. I'll have to maybe blur that out or something when we're setting all of this up. So we're not actually plugging into ChinaNet at 223. That's just their sample. And so this note calls out this specific item right here. Okay. Well, that's no problem. Okay, now here's all of our code, and it's a lot of code, but that's fine. And then our test result says if the Wi-Fi is connected successfully, the serial monitor will print out the assigned IP address, right? So, okay. And it'd be like connected to my network, and then it'll tell us. Open a browser to access the IP address, right? So we could open a incognito Chrome window and read the contents of the string S sent out. So within the code, it will say hello ESP32 at hello ESP32. This is, oh, we're sending an HTML document. That's cool. That is super cool. And we'll get into HTML soon too, because HTML is a lot of fun. But see how we're sending an HTML. I don't know if you've ever done HTML, but okay, here's doc type. This is, we'll have to look at this. It looks like it's saying, here's a string, right? Named HTML, and we give it the value of this. and it looks like we're appending to HTML. We're adding to whatever's there, this, and we're making it longer because I'm pretty sure that's got to be that way. It's literally building out the document one line at a time, because an HTML document looks like this right here, doc type at the top, and then you have the HTML open tag, and the closing tag is down here. It attached the head and the title inside the head, right? And then below that it attaches the body and an H1 and a message, the closing tag. I forget what this, that's an escape character, but I forget why we use the N there. It might be like a next line or something. We'll look it up later when we do HTML. And then we're adding a paragraph tag, open, close. And this is all like a format kind of a thing, right? IP address equals, and then plus IP string plus. And so it's going to print those characters. And then close the body, close the HTML. And then you remember before where it says like void or something? Now it's going to return this document. That's what it's returning now. So this return type is telling us, okay, we want to return this HTML. String that we created. So that's really cool. Let's I've been kind of talking about that for a minute. Let's actually sort the code out. But you know, the thing is we're seeing some new things that we haven't seen before, you know, and that's one thing that's really super cool about this kit, is that every project kind of builds a little bit more off of that, right? Like off of the previous, right? So like now we have a Wi-Fi library, we have a Wi-Fi client library, we have ESP and DNS domain name search or something. I can't remember. I'm supposed to be Network Plus certified. I am Network Plus certified. I just haven't used that in a while. We'll figure it out though when we start studying for our Security Plus. We'll start going over a lot of that stuff again. And we're going to see it come up when we start talking about Linux a lot more. Linux and terminal. We're going to start doing a lot more, you know, fun with computer stuff. We're make them do things that they're not supposed to do. That's why we make That's why we play with computers. So what am I doing? I'm sorting everything out right now. See, we got all these that's a constructor, I think. No, that's we'll go over it. Okay. Kind of trying to, okay, and that we're down here at the end. So let's go back up to the top and start with what we know. We're going to do all of our imports. So we got all of our include statements up here. And then we have our network configuration. Look at this Wi-Fi server. And that's probably going to be the port. Port 80 should be HTML, or, well, hang on one second. Let's bring up our incognito, right? And let's be honest with ourselves. Port 80 is HTTP, that's what I mean. So like the HTTP www that communication protocol. That's what we're using. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Okay, so HTTP protocol over port 80. Now, why is that important? Let's take a quick look back. Okay, follow me here. secure HTTP, because there is another port port number goofball 443 is HTTPS 443, right? So port 80 is an unsecured HTTP port. Make sense? Excuse me. So that's why we want to just take note of that. We want to take note of that. And I'm trying to get all this crap out of my way here. Bring back my document. Okay, so here we are. Wi-Fi server. So typically we have a server and a client, right? So I'm thinking that this Wi-Fi server, this object we build, you see it's a constructor there, name server, and we build a Wi-Fi server named server that should represent this object from this library up here, right? Because the computer is either a server or a client in most cases, right? You know. So we're using port 80. So once again, we can non-secure HTTP. I just like to put notes in there like that. So global variables. We have a global variable. We've talked about global variables, but we've never actually seen them in the code like this. But string request path is equal to this hash mark, right? Okay, that's interesting. Or I'm sorry, it's a forward slash. Now let's look at our setup function. Everything inside the setup function is going to get indented. Okay. Now serial begin. This baud rate, we're familiar with that. Now we want to connect to the Wi-Fi. So serial print line. This is going to print to the serial console. Connecting to Wi-Fi. This should be an escape character, an N. I think that's a new line. Let's take a quick look. Here we go. Let me get that out of my way. And oh, my Arduino tab over here. So we want to language reference. Library. I don't want libraries. Oh, come on. Let me make this bigger so I can see better. I want the language. Okay, this is so structure probably. This is divide, but compound operators further. Because it's not being used. So that's compound addition. We'll see that in a little bit. It shows it's a division operator, but I don't think it's being used as that. Communication, delay. Let's look. Variables. Let's look at strings. Because why are we doing that? Because serial print line, and it's printing a string, right? And this string 1. Okay, but that's an array. single quotes or double quotes. Oh, that's the same. Arrays of strings. See also. So I'm not finding. Let's look at. Let's look at this division operator. So numerator, denominator. But it's not being used that way. It's not being used that way. So it would be it's not compound division. We'll figure that out. How about we'll do DINOESCAP escape character should be, yeah. Oh, a backslash. Huh. Well, what is this doing in our code then? Well, that is a backslash. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a forward slash. Okay, so that's new line. That's what that means right there. Let's see, do you see that? Okay. Yeah, you can see that. New line feed. So inserts a new line character, moving the cursor to the beginning of the next line. So serial print, line 1, backslash, and new line, escape character, line 2. That's what that's doing for us. Okay, well, that was harrowing. But now you know what it's going on, right? Because otherwise it would just continue to write the same line. So there's our setup function, and we're just going to tighten that up. And we pretty much know what everything else. So we have a new line, and then connecting to Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, we call upon this Wi-Fi class up here that we imported, right? So Wi-Fi, there's a begin method attached to that, and it wants SSID and password. Those are part of that library. Well, no, these are constants that we created. Sorry, these are the constants we created up here, SSID and password. And this needs to be my SSID and password. We'll fix that later. Now, okay. This, let's not fool ourselves, right? We are still working within the setup function. Okay. As you can tell where the brackets are highlighted at. And we've taken a closer look at that before, so there's no need to do it now. Let's see, we have an if statement. We're going to put that in a little bit. I'm going to, darn it. I want to separate this out to make it look pretty. Make it look nice and easier to read. So Wi-Fi status method, calling the status method from the Wi-Fi, and if it's not equal to WL connected, then delay and serial print the thing. That's what that means, if it's not equal to WL connected. And what's WL connected? I think we created that somewhere up here. Or maybe it's something that's already part of the part of the thing. Okay, so when the server began, we have an if statement, indent that, and then there's our HTTP service, TCP IP protocol. So it means it needs the TCP IP three-way handshake. That's a networking thing over port 80. And what's our other option? UDP, which is non-secure. It's a fire and forget protocol. TCP IP is it's a more secure protocol. It ensures that there's a connection before transmitting. Okay, and so then the server is started. So we're actually building a little mini server. So for those of you who are interested in getting Server Plus qualified, that's one of our things we're doing right here is we're just building a little server. Isn't that kind of cool? I bet you didn't know that, did you? Okay. I don't know, maybe you did. Let's build some robots. Okay. Look at that, that's a mouthful. If or while the client is connected, while client connected method, and while client is not available, delay the one. We still have a lot of code to go. That's okay though. What do we see here? We see a constructor. We see a parse HTTP request. So, okay. It's a string request. So we're building a string, we're calling it request, and we're getting client read string util from that. So let's ask ourselves, that's not the end of our loop function, that's in the wrong place. All of this stuff is still inside the loop function, right? Even that. And probably all of this stuff here too. Is that closed loop function? Yeah. That's the end of the loop function. You can see that one's highlighted and that one's highlighted. So everything else in here is inside the loop function. Yeah, we have more to go. Let's just start at the bottom, because we can just do this like that. That all just needs to be indented. Okay, so we have a string. We have a method. Remember earlier we said we were building methods that, and it would say void, and we say we're not returning anything, so we don't care. Well, here, this method we're creating, I'll call it a function, I guess, whatever. This function we're creating is returning a string, based on all of this input that we're feeding it. Up. And then, see, it returns HTML. So, we want a response from this one. So that's why we have a return type now. That's cool. Let me make that smaller. Okay. And here you see we have another build homepage response. We have a build not response, not found. So if the page isn't found, we have this response, right? And then this is the home page we're building. This function right here, you see we have IP address, local IP, build all the string body, we build this little HTML page. So that's cool. And then we request a serial path. Request path. We built a request path somewhere up here, right? If request path, so it's probably, is that a global variable? Yeah. So our string request path global variable up here. That's where I got hung up on the forward leaning slash. So this is saying at this point of the program, make this variable equal all of this, the requested substring and address start plus 1 address end, right? And then serial print line requested path, that's the text we want to print, space plus the value of this. Okay, so that's what that does for us. Now when we actually go to run the program, I'm probably going to forget all of this. You're like, why doesn't the button work? Okay, so we create an integer, address start equals request index of empty. Okay, so I want to put a space here. If address start is equal to -1, or if address end is equal to -1, then do these actions: serial print, print line, request path, change the request path to equal this string 404, and then return. So we're making a little 404 not found page or response. Okay, great. Okay, now all of these are going to get indented here. And so we create a function. It doesn't return anything. You're starting to get the hang of that now. Serial print all this stuff to the console, print line. You know the difference between print and print line. Okay. Let's make our way back up to the top. I'm going to start writing my if-else statements a little bit differently. Now, I'm just trying to make it easier to read. I'm not trying to... If I were trying to ship this code, I would be condensing things down. But I'm trying to make it easier for everybody to read. That way, if you're not very accustomed to writing code, if this kind of stuff is new for you, and if you get hung up on like how and why things are structured the way they are, this will make it easier for you. But if I were going to ship this, I would be writing the code entirely differently. Like I would be using probably shorter variable names. I would be cutting out a lot of white space. I would be using different operators that can do multiple things at a time, etc., etc. But right now we're just kind of exploring where we're setting it up for the people who are not used to coding. They don't know how to do this stuff. Like, this is for those people. Okay. So I think we did a pretty good job of doing all of this. So now what I want to do is hang on here. Has that been up the whole time? Gosh. Okay. Well, I need to replace this with my information, and then we'll run the code. So let me, unfortunately, I'm sorry I had that other thing up there above the whole time, but let me put that back for the, actually no, let me just turn off the IDE for a minute so I can make these changes. And give me 1 second. There's my SSID. Hopefully I got that right. And let me run this real quick and see if we connect, see if I got everything typed in right. I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt, but let me check my network and see if I got my network information correct. There's Wi-Fi. Yeah, that should be good. Okay. Now, give me 1 second here. Look at our console. Okay, there we go. Usually when it says hard resetting, let me make sure. Okay, great. Let me scroll down a little bit before I show my IDE again. Okay, so what we care about right here is this right here. Wi-Fi is connected, right? And then we see this SSID is my SSID. That's the name of my network. And then this is the IP address that my network assigned. And then we have these other things that are running. Let's see, 1.176. That's this item right here. And so we're just doing all this stuff, right? So there it is. Everything is so now let's check our instructions and see. Wi-Fi is connected, so we saw that, right? Okay. Open a browser to access the IP address, and then we'll read the contents of the string sent out by the code. Okay, yeah, we forgot to do that, didn't we? That's mostly your fault. You're supposed to be on top of things here. But anyway, let's go to a new tab, and let's get our IP address out of here. Copy. Copy. Yeah, 192.168.1.167. Okay, perfect. I don't know if you guys know or not, but a little trick that we use in Linux quite a bit is to highlight something and then press the mouse wheel to copy it over into something. Like we just put the mouse where we want it, put the pointer, and then press the mouse wheel to click on it. There's my incognito window. So there's my IP address that I've entered in there to the incognito window. And there's our message, hello from ESP32, and this is our IP address. So that proves that our server's working. We made a little web server, right? So how cool is that? Later on, we can put pictures of cats in there or whatever. You know, there's all kinds of goofy stuff we can do with that. So let's make that go away. Let's make that go away. And let's see here. That's all we're gonna do with this one. Let's take a quick preview of our next one. Next one, we control the smart home. In this project, we'll learn how to realize different functions of the smart home through accessing different strings under the address. There's an LCD screen that can print out the IP address, which is much more convenient. And then we have all of this monster code, which is fine. We'll get it all sorted out. And the test result, if we're successfully connected, we'll display it on the assigned on the monitor there. We'll have a test page, LED off, fan on, so we'll have, and then we have the mobile phone app. So we're coming down to the last few projects here. Test result, and IT smart home. Well, yeah, so I thought we were a little bit further along than we are, but that's cool. That just means that we have more Arduino to do, and Arduino's fun, so we have more fun. Okay, so where are we? That's us right here. So Okay, yeah, so that's us. Control the smart home is the next one. So, okay, that's where we're going to go next.